Welcome to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today we are going to be playing around with Dall-E 2, which you see in front of your screen right here. We're going to keep looking at this AI art generation because I think it's such a fascinating idea. It's such a powerful tool that I haven't quite figured out how I want to use it, how other people may really capitalize on it yet. But nevertheless, for those of you unfamiliar, Dall-E 2 is an AI by OpenAI, and it takes sentences or paragraphs or keywords and turns it into a real, unique, generated piece of art. It could be very realistic, it could be more cartoony. You can specify a whole lot of things. Now, the reason I have taken Dall-E 2 up front here is because that's the one we're very familiar with. It's well used, it's out there, it's published, lots and lots of articles and demos, mine included, are out there on the web for you to take a look at. But our video today isn't actually about Dall-E, it's about an open source competitor, and that is Stable Diffusion. If you go and check out the repository, you can see and you can deploy it all on your own. And there are a bunch of different samples of results that look very good to very poor, just like Dall-E. And you can deploy this all on your own on your computer. And that's what our goal is today. We are going to set up Stable Diffusion. We're going to see how it works, how it looks when you're deploying it locally on your own computer, and we're just going to play around with it. It's not really going to be all that difficult because we are going to be following a few guides that I pulled off of Reddit to try and get this running. Now, before we start and before I just stop talking altogether, I had just put a quick prompt. Scum, or at least so they claim, is using Stable Diffusion, and you can see a couple of the renders when I posted a realistic portrait, digital concept art of a woman in a spacesuit playing the guitar on the surface of the moon, cold, space, adventure, amusing, wall art, ultra detail. Some of these are a bit odd. I'm not sure why there is this third leg, I suppose. And down here, some of these poses are not perfect. Out of all of these, I think this one is possibly the closest, and maybe this one as well to what I was imagining. But all of these are perfectly viable and frankly a lot better than if I was trying to generate it myself. This is Dall-E's version of it. You can see the images are a bit more composed, all of the same prompt, the exact same wording, but you have quite different results. Also not perfect. I think they must have skipped some of this amusing, more whimsical aspect of it. But both very viable, and I think, at least from this one prompt, the quality is fairly similar. Anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to just follow the steps here to start building this out. But one of the really important things to note is that Stable Diffusion doesn't work across all systems. It does have some minimum requirements, and I'm struggling to find them now, but one of them is actually quite a beefy graphics card. Now, I'm using a GTX 980. It's not exactly the oldest piece of hardware out there. It's still very relevant, but certainly not one of the newest, most flashiest graphics cards out there today. So I am going to have to find a Stable Diffusion fork that is meant for a for a less impressive graphics card, which I understand do exist out there. So I'm going to swap over and start taking a look at how we're going to deploy this. We did it. Take a look at this. This is the image generated off my computer. I think it took about 2.5 minutes. Keep in mind, I don't have a very nice graphics card at the moment. And so it does take longer, and it should be faster if you have one of the latest cards around. Just wanted to say that this is probably a nicer image than any of these renders that we had, and arguably maybe even nicer than the Dall-E ones. Take a look at this. It's fairly clear, it's composed, it has the guitar. I did pick a little bit as well that this helmet area looks kind of similar to this one. I'm not really sure what the reflection is. There's of course the moon setting, and there are bits and pieces you can see the similarity. Anyways, that's not important. What you wanted to take a look at is what we've done with the guide. If you go on Reddit, the Stable Diffusion unofficial Reddit community, you're going to find a bunch of guides. This one that I'm following, I'm sure it'll change. Some of these instructions were not perfect, but if you actually read and figure out what it's trying to tell you, that is perfectly fine. So the basics of it is super simple. You got to download all this stuff. The model, the AI model itself is about 4 gigs. And then you have these face correction, upscaling models. Those are also AI models that are a couple hundred megabytes each. When you install Miniconda, I'll go through the steps afterwards, but when you install Miniconda, all of the prerequisites are again multiple gigs. So I think it's probably about 10 gigs worth of downloads to get this from top to bottom running. Anyways, what you're going to do is follow this little section step by step if you happen to have the latest graphics card. So you're going to download this 4 gig model. It's just a single file. You're going to download 2 sets of code. And this is where you have to do a little bit more work. Basically, you're merging the files together. You're dragging some of this repository script into this one. And what that does is gives you a web UI. So you're not just throwing commands into CMD. What you're doing is instead you have this nice interface to work with. So you gotta move a couple files around, rename them, just follow the instructions. There are similarly named files, so you do want to read closely. Drag the model into that folder, change a couple lines, and then you're going to install Miniconda. That's going to let you run Python code very easily just off the CMD script right here. So that's just makes it easy for everyone, makes it easy for you. None of this is particularly mind-bending or difficult. And then you just double-click, wait for everything to install and run, and you're good to go. Now, if you're like me, you don't have the latest graphics card, it does take a little bit. What happens is it's going to keep resetting. It's going to do all of the installations, get it all ready, download all the files, you're ready to go, and it's going to tell you there's not enough RAM. It's going to reboot. It's going to tell you there's not enough RAM. So when you're stuck in that reboot loop, you're going to have to close off that command prompt, and you're going to have to change some of these things. This is where it's a little bit more difficult. You're going to look at relauncher.py in the file, and this instruction is not perfect. What they want you to do is basically run it in an optimized fashion so that you don't need as much RAM. Now, if you take a look at, let me zoom in a little bit here. Nope, wrong way. Line 8 doesn't have a launch. Instead, they just have a bunch of these options, and we want to turn optimized to true. It was false before, you turn it to true. That achieves the exact same thing that they're trying to do, and that made it possible for me to run on just 4 gigs of VR RAM. The other thing is you can install other models. So in this case, you have GFP GAN and ESR GAN, and these will do different things. This one corrects faces, so if they look a little bit garbled, which I can definitely see the possibility of, like right here, then you can do some post processing as well to make sure your faces look all right. And then that's it. You would go in and you would type something here and generate. So it took, and this is because, again, I have a crappier graphics card, it took about 2.5 minutes to generate this one image. So you can imagine Dall-E, when they generate 4 images at once, that they are they are probably running a better processor than I am and doing it to scale. But for fun, I'm going to come up with another prompt, and I'm just going to wait it out on the side. What you're going to see is basically a little bar over here, process, and then you're going to see the images here. So let me come up with something, and then we'll end this video shortly afterwards. Okay, so there we have it, another 4 images here. Assassin's Creed concept art. You can tell what I've been playing. Dark Ages Europe, interior of a castle, protagonist standing in a throne room, richly decorated, gaudy, guards standing by an empty throne room, dark tones, depressing. Looking for a really dark image here. What I wanted to show you quickly is the time it took. And so once again, let me just zoom in. It took 2 minutes for each run. There are no savings. It is still 2 minutes per image. It just ran the prompt 4 times, basically. Maybe there's some minor savings, but really it's trying to do the same thing. It's no different from running 4 different prompts if you are creating new images. Anyways, let's take a final look and see what we have here. This is very Assassin's Creed. I don't like it though. The back is very flat, not a great image. This next one, I don't know if it's very accurate. You can see over here, you can see how strongly the image should follow the prompt. I don't know that this is an empty throne if someone is sitting on it. Over here, this is closer to what I expect. I don't know if there's a throne right there, but you can fix it a little bit up, and this could look pretty close. This is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. Empty throne, Assassin's Creed, maybe this doesn't look like a perfect castle. This might be a more unique type of throne room, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I can save the couple cents that Dall-E is charging. Keep in mind, they are really not charging all that much for their tokens. I think it's something like something on the order of 10 or 20 cents an image. So it's not a ton of money. If you're using a state-of-the-art graphics card, you better be churning these out like day in, day out to really make it worthwhile. But you do get a little bit more control over your process, and that always helps. Anyways, I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found that interesting. Do let me know. If not, leave comments below. Let me know how I can do better. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.